I recently had an opportunity to talk to Bob Beckwith. He's a very famous retired New York City fireman who ended up in one of the most iconic scenes at Ground Zero in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. But his story is not the one I remember. Watch.
A picture seared in the nation's memory. President Bush at Ground Zero 3 days after the attacks. A bullhorn in one hand, the other draped around firefighter Bob Beckwith.
That firefighter with President Bush was Bob Beckwith.
Bob Beckwith was...
Beckwith stood shoulder to shoulder with President Bush.
Bob Beckwith, a firefighter from Queens, New York, in his mid-60s.
That day, he stood alongside the president and stepped onto the national patriotic stage.
Bob, are you there?
Yes.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Very good. And yourself?
I'm very good, sir.
Very good.
I just wanted to touch base with you, your experiences with 9/11, because I painted a painting of you a couple of weeks ago for an auction. And as I was painting you, I thought, I know this man's story, but not really. And now that you've had almost 20 years to digest it, I'd love to hear, first of all, where were you on 9/11 when it happened?
When it happened, Glenn, my daughter had called me that my grandson, going to school on his bicycle, was hit by a car about 2 blocks away from me. And I ran over there to see what was happening, and I saw him on the ground, but he was moving, so that was a plus. And I found out from the ambulance driver what hospital they were taking him to. And I came home to get my car. I listened on the radio, and it said, I heard a guy say
that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more.
And so I came inside, and my wife had it on the television already, and they had cameras there. I was looking, and I said, that's a little bit bigger than a small plane.
Yeah.
I figured I got a bad day going. My grandson gets hit by a car, and now a plane goes in.
Where were you living at the time, Bob?
I was living right here in Baldwin, New York.
When did the phone call come in that you had to go? Were you with your grandson in the hospital, or what? When did you?
Yes, I went to the hospital to be with him. Everybody was watching television at the hospital, and I saw the South Tower come down.
Oh my God. One World Trade Center has collapsed in its entirety.
One World Trade Center is gone.
And then a few minutes later, the North Tower came down.
The other tower just collapsed. Ready to collapse.
And I knew that there was guys in the building, because the firemen were in there. You know what goes through your head when it just hits you pretty hard.
Bob, did you have any inkling that those towers might come down when you saw?
Never thought it would. Really, honestly, never thought that they were coming down. Boy, was I shocked when that happened.
So when did you first arrive at Ground Zero?
What happened was I came home from the hospital later that day, and I told my wife and my kids that I'm going down to Ground Zero, and they said, don't go down, you're too old. I was 69 years old, and they thought I was an old man there, and I'm going to get in the way, so just don't go down there. The next day, I find out that Jimmy Boyle was the president of the UFA, the Uniformed Firefighters Association, and I was one of his delegates. And when I found out his son is missing, I said, that's it, I'm out of here. And I suited up the next morning, and I got to go down to Ground Zero. So I'm driving down there. I'm on a BQE, the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway, and I'm going towards the Williamsburg Bridge. Oh, guess what? The bridges are closed. And I saw a cop's car going over the bridge with 2 vans behind it. I said, I'm going to give it a shot. And I drove between the cones, and I went on the bridge. But when I got over to the other side, there was nobody. Nobody was there. Everything was gray. And I went over to the house watch at 55 Engine, and I told him I'm going down to Ground Zero. And they said, well, good luck. I said, what the heck is that good luck about? Anyway, the police department they're lined up on a perimeter all around ground zero. I said, I got to get in there, And I showed them my badge, and they let me in. And then the guy said to me, good luck. So I went down to about a block or two, and then I see the National Guard. Mm-hmm. They were on the perimeter also. Mm-hmm. And I said, we don't care that you're a fireman, but you're not getting in. So I had to think fast, and I talked my way in.
I was at that perimeter. I don't know how anyone could have talked themselves through that line. How did you do it?
I told a little fib there. I told them I missed the rig, and I was going to get in trouble if I didn't get in there. And they bought it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you're there. You snuck across the bridge on the island. Then you sneak across the barrier with the National Guard.
Right.
And then what happens?
And then I came into ground zero, and I tell you, it was a shock.
Now you can see the people running as the buildings begin to
crumble. Rescuers running, racing for their lives.
One of the buildings is partially collapsed.
It remains that as yet unidentified survivors will be found in underground.
The first thing that came to my mind was, this is how it probably looked in the Blitz.
So, Bob, when you look back at this now, what is it that you take away? What is it that we should, as a people, take away from that moment on the fire truck?
You know what, Glenn? We fought two wars. We fought the Japanese and we fought the Germans, and we stuck together, and that's the same thing that happened at 9/11. People came in from every state to help us.
Search and rescue and
rescue, right?
And the food. I was there, Bob, and I saw people come from all over the country to feed you guys. And my wife and I went. These firemen were coming out after a long day, and both of us just started to applaud. Like, I don't know. Everything was upside down, and the enormity of it was just remarkable.
Yes, it really was. But we stuck together, and we received rigs that we lost in it, and other states helped. They built the rigs and sent them to us. This is America, and the people are great. They really are.